Hello and welcome to Comedy in a Nutshell, a podcast where I ask the people in comedy about comedy. I'm your host Mark Decano, and I see comedians as oh so many baked potatoes. I ask, under the crusty exterior, are they soft and fluffy inside? I butter them up and consume their contents with gusto, hoping things don't get too steamy. I'm the comedy nerd who's seen more than 2,000 different comedians perform live comedy, and you can find out more about my journey in comedy fandom on my website, thecomedynerd.com. Please also take a moment to like, subscribe, rate, review, and share the podcast. Thank you. My guest this episode is a writer, performer, director, and comedian, but also creator of the Weirdos Comedy Collective, which features among its cast members previous podcast guests Charlie Vera-Martin and the Edinburgh Comedy Award-winning Sam Nicoresti. They're a creator as well known on the comedy circuit for creating a life-size cardboard Greggs in their living room, as they are for their own great solo works and the Weirdos Comedy Group's pantomimes. It's comedian Adam Larter. So, do you remember when you were growing up that comedy was a big influence on you back then?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I was like obsessed, basically. For many people, like watched an absolute ton of sitcoms and whatever came on the telly, which was obviously Only Fools and Horses on repeat all of the time there. But yeah, whatever like the 90s threw our way. All of like, I loved like the weird and wacky cartoons that were coming out at the time. I was like obsessed with Dexter's Laboratory and Powerpuff Girls and Cow and Chicken and all of that mad stuff and Ren and Stimpy, and was just like absorbing comedy all of the way, like loads of comedy films. My dad used to play the Good Morning Vietnam soundtrack on like family holidays in the car going down to Cornwall. I remember like trying to like learn the little snippets of his like Adrian Croner kind of like radio DJ bit and like learn those routines. And then even like I got like passed down the family turntable when no one wanted it, and that was like there was all of the Monty Python records, you know, Not Another Monty Python Record and all of those ones there. And just like obsessed with just playing that and like trying to repeat that. And yeah, and then I think like it was only as a teenager that I like learned and discovered like live comedy was a thing. I used to play on like Comedy Central live from the Comedy Store, and it was weird. Like there was only like 5 or 6 episodes that they used to just play on repeat. And I remember, yeah, there's like the Bill Bailey one that always used to pop up, Bill Bailey singing Hats Off to the Badgers, and these like, yeah, comedians of the time, which was that sort of like quite cool, like bar style, like stand up, where it's like very sort of smoky atmosphere. And like, I suppose in a post Bill Hicks world, everyone trying to be quite like, you know, not very silly, but actually quite like, yeah, cool with things. And that kind of comedy. That's a very long rambling answer, but yeah, all of the way through from life, obsessed with that. And I just had a very comedy family of like uncles who were always like telling jokes at Christmas table. And yeah, it was always, and my granddad, he was like, yeah, always liked to tell a silly little joke. And yeah, it's just obsessed.
Yeah.
I find it really weird that some people aren't. You know, when you meet people who are in comedy and like you talk about something and you assume you've got a shared reference and you go like, oh, that Red Dwarf episode where blah, blah, blah. And people are like, what? Like, not spend every moment of your life like reading up and obsessing about comedy? What is wrong with you?
Yeah, it never ceases to amaze and disappoint me that not everyone I meet has had the exact same cultural references and experiences I've had.
Yeah. Damn. This week I got into like a little bit of a feud with Matthew Hyton, who believed that people don't know the They Might Be Giants song, Birdhouse in Your Soul. And I was like, that is a song that everyone knows.
Yeah.
You know it?
Of course, yeah.
Right, okay. And he never
knows
heard that song, and he's over 40 years old. And I was like, you're in the age bracket to get and know this song. Nope, never heard it.
Madness. So what was your route in then? Did you have specific inspirations or experiences that made you want to do comedy for yourself?
So into, like, I've always been like writing as a child, like as a real nerdy child, like horrendously, annoyingly nerdy child. And like started like writing silly stories and poems. And I remember, because both my parents were working full time, and like a lot of that meant like over summer holidays when my mum would take me into the office with her as like babysitting, and I was allowed to like play on like the office typewriter, and I used to just like write little poems and like write little stories there. And I think they always wanted to be like silly. And I don't think I ever really thought that like comedy could be like a thing that I could do seriously. But I did study creative writing at university, and there I met Ali Bryce, and we used to watch live comedy once or twice a week because we were lucky enough to be in Kingston, which has, do you know Outside the Box Comedy?
Yeah, I go there a lot. Yeah.
Fantastic comedy club. And we used to go there and watch incredible, you know, really cheap, but like these big TV name comics doing regular tours. We even saw Robin Williams there once, like the Robin Williams, wow. Who was doing a bit of testing out material. And yeah, we used to go there, and it was a mix of like seeing these like people that were like, oh, big, exciting TV names, like in front of you in a small audience. But also just seeing people we'd never heard of. And Ali and I were both like attracted to like those who were doing really interesting, quirky things. Like, I think still remember seeing Ed Axel for the first time. This is like 18 years ago or something like that. And, you know, I still try and see Ed Axel as often as possible. I think he's an incredible act, but it was like both, this is incredible art, but also this is possible. And I don't mean that as an insult to Ed. I mean, like, actually, I don't feel like I can relate to Russell Kane doing what he's doing, even though he's also just a bloke from Essex. But seeing Ed do that, I'm like, that his brain works how my brain works. This is possible. I could go and do that. So Ali and I convinced him and said, like, we should do this. And yeah, we sort of both convinced each other, and we booked ourselves in to do a slot at Comedy Virgins at the Cavendish Arms 16 or so years ago, and did it as a double act for the first time. And yeah, just sort of never stopped performing since then. And, you know, we performed as a double act for a while, Ali and I, before like just doing our own stuff. But that was what we took. I just love showing off, and like I'm an absolute ego. Whereas like Ali's got these incredible funny bones, but is like really shy. So we kind of needed each other. Like I needed like to know I was doing something with this like very funny person who I respected and I felt very legitimate. Yeah. And he needed my like arrogance and ego. I mean, really, our friendship still continues that way to this day. But yeah, we needed each other to push ourselves out there.
Yeah. So going there and doing those first opportunities, I mean, doing comedy live, was it what you had in your mind? Was it what you imagined it? What kind of surprises did you encounter?
I don't think. I think like because I'd been doing actually. So before that, at university, I'd gotten into poetry quite a bit because I was a nerdy, pretentious teenager, and then I went and performed quite a lot of like poetry at open mics, and I'd already been doing that for a while, right? And always any opportunity as a kid, like I'd always taken any opportunity to go up on stage, whether it's like karaoke or like, you know, when you go to like holiday camps and there's like, who wants to get up and do a talent show thing? Like any opportunity I'd always taken for years. So there was no like worry about being on stage or being nervous. It was more like just trying, experimenting on like different forms. And I don't think we overthought it too much. Like both Ali and I, it's just like, because also doing a creative writing degree, there's been 3 years of just like writing stuff all of the time as well. So it was like a really natural step. I'd sort of been preparing all of those elements there. Right. I mean, you never learn to be good at comedy. Like you're always refining and learning. But yeah, I felt quite like a natural jump and just loved it. Loved it from day one.
Yeah. So you went in doing a double act. So I know that you took that to Edinburgh Fringe.
Oh yeah, we did do a double act one year. We did a play, but I think we're just well. I think we probably would have just continued as a double act for ages. But I think it was something like 6 gigs in. They were like, Ali and I were just like messaging, like, I've booked us in to do this open mic, and he couldn't make one of the dates. So I just said, all right, then I'll go and do it myself. And I think like the first time I ever just did a bit by myself was literally because Ali couldn't make it or something like that. And I was like, well, that's not going to stop me. And I think we both just continued doing that. And and like the stuff that I started doing was just, I started doing goofy sort of semi-character, semi-sketchy, semi-prop based stuff, just because that's where the idea was that week. That was just like, for probably the first, I think, 5 years of doing comedy, the rule I made myself was that I would never do the same set twice. I would just go on and always do a different thing. And there was a few like really good, like open micy type places that I just went to over and over again, and just always just kept trying a different thing. And that was just great fun. And they were just really poorly rehearsed. Like, I've built this prop this week and this is what I'm going to do. Or this week I'm going to try and do a thing with a ukulele, or this week I'm going to dress up as this or whatever. Because there was no pretension that you know, me, Ali, or anyone in our gang would like make it famous or do well. So it was just like, I don't know, it was like being in your 20s and just like goofing around and having fun. And, you know, I had a very sensible I still do, very sensible day job. And so it was just like that, how much fun can you have in your 5 or 10 minutes that night, really?
That description, being playful and messing around and not rehearsing and everything, brings me on by a perfect description almost of the Weirdos Collective.
Oh yeah. I run that actually, Mark. Yeah.
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 So tell me about founding that and what the idea was.
Before I ran that, I ran a really bad comedy night at the Proud Galleries in Camden, which I don't know what that is now. But you know where like the stable markets are, there's this venue. And I think I must have gone to like some friends' drinks or something there. I, for a long time, just thought there was nowhere in the world cooler than Camden. And I was just like a kid that liked indie music. And I arrived in London and I was like, oh, wow, look, this place has got record shops. So the idea of like running a comedy night in Camden, I felt I was like Pete Doxy or something like that. And I just booked bills that I thought were like, these people are like up and coming and like doing well. And I was like, how do you sell tickets to stuff? And I just didn't really know anything. You know, I had no profile of my own. I mean, I have minimal profile now, but I had even less then. And so I was just trying to make this work and just booking it as like a stand-up night. I had never really emceed before. And was absolutely dreadful at it. I remember wearing a bowler hat to the first one. It was just, you learn all of these things by just being really, really bad. But the lineups were ridiculous. Like, we had Rob Beckett and Josh Widdicombe and that on like the opening night, and a band of men. And these people went on to do, you know, very, very well. But I don't know, the first couple of nights as you do like running a night, all of your friends come, and then like I learned like how hard it is to promote stuff. And I remember one of the biggest lessons I learned was like the last gig I ran of that, I'd booked Dan Antopolsky and Adam Riches as like double headliners, which for comedy fans, that's a really good lineup. Not particularly diverse lineup, but very good lineup in terms of like creds or whatever. And they're two people I think are extremely funny. But I'd gambled everything on it. I was like, this lineup's going to get some people in. And, you know, I was just out of university, was like working a graduate job and doing this on the side. I'd spent my last money on like booking and getting flyers, and I'd spent all day flyering in the rain for this. And then no one turned up on the door. And I remember having to like message Adam Riches, like as I was finding this out, who was like going to arrive to headline, and saying like, please don't come. I can't pay you. and like he never responded to that. And I just felt so low. And I think like from that point onwards, I was like, okay, I don't have the money to be able to like run a gig like a business. So what if I just ran a gig that was less for an audience and less for like trying to make money or something like that, and more just like as an experiment and a goof around place. And I started Weirdos, and to start with it was just another like open mic night, but for just like acts I booked that were exclusively alternative acts. So yeah, the opening night, I don't know, for those first few ones, it was like Matthew Hyton and Ali, Holly Byrne was around a lot, Beth Weiss was around a lot. Those are the sort of like Cahill and Kearns were coming in a lot there. And we would just go and do 10 minutes of really stupid stuff. Ben Tarjay was there a good bit, just like trying to make ourselves laugh, really. And that was a very straightforward night for a good while. And I like just ran it as no one got paid. It was just for fun because it was free entry as well. And it was real free entry. It wasn't free entry with a donation at the end. It was just completely free. It was just like, if you want to come. So people would bring their friends, and, random people would stumble into it. It was in King's Cross. And it ran like that for a while. But I think it became exciting when we started to do like themed nights. And I was like, this month is going to be this theme. And I was like, oh, this is a really good promotional hook to do this. And we'd do like the Weirdos Olympics, and like everyone would turn up and like they were doing a different sport each or whatever. And I think like there's a really good like healthy, well, there's always like the next generation of alternative comedy, but like we started, and then like a year or two after we started, ACMS started, and Invisible Dot started, and they had like their own venue. So Invisible Dot had like funding and a venue, and was like booking like these big legitimate names, your Tim Keys and your Simon Amstel's. And ACMS was like, had a really cool venue, and had like, again, like, Josie Long and Bridget Christie and these people on the lineup. So I was like, we are the scruffy young urchins in this scene, but we can be madder and more ridiculous and just embrace the chaos and how long the night goes on for and how much mess we would make. One night, the incredible Darren Maskell, who's very sadly no longer with us, he decided, I can't remember what the theme was or why, but he had bought gunge off the internet, and it was like proper gunge, like you can get your own back. And he gunged himself on stage. I don't know if there was a punchline to it, but it was like the Weirdos Awards night. We were having an awards night, and he gunged himself, and there was also like a drum kit on stage, and and I was co-hosting that with John Kearns that night, who I think was just angry the whole night. And Darren made the stage so slippery, and like everyone that came up afterwards was just like in legitimate danger, and there was like so many glasses that were broken because Darren had put this gunge everywhere. And it turned out you couldn't wash it. It was like a type of thing that it's a sort of material that you try and wipe it with water, and it doesn't get soaked up by a sponge. It only moves around. It's incredible. And it was just so dangerous. And I brought a friend who I'd known for a long time to that night, and she'd brought a date. And I don't know if I've ever spoken to that friend properly since then. She was just like, what have you brought me to? Yeah, it was chaos for a long, long time. It was awful for a long time. It's the sort of night that probably, if I went to those early Weirdos nights now, I would be like, this is awful. These guys, they need to put some effort in. This is dreadful.
Mercifully, I haven't experienced a Weirdos gig that was quite so frightening.
There's the impetus to put effort in. So that was like, when it like was the lightning bulb moment was like getting together and getting the gang to do like a scripted thing. And we started doing our pantomimes. And the first was a recreation of the film Hook. And which is the third time I've mentioned Robin Williams on this. And we did the whole film on stage as a pantomime. And I had never directed a show. I'd never like put on a show that big. It was at Bethnal Green Working Men's Club. And John Kearns as Peter Pan, Holly Byrne as Hook, Holly Byrne as Tinkerbell, Carl Schultz as Hook. It was chaos. And I didn't know how to write a script either, so I just watched the film Hook and transcribed it from screen, which meant there were bits in the script where John was like, "It says here that I fly. What do you mean by that?" And I was like, "Oh, fly. How am I going to do it, Adam? How am I going to fly?" I was like, "Oh, we'll work it out." Yeah. And then from then I was like, "Oh, this is the magic. Like doing this like full show as a production is like what's unique and special, and what, there's a million, even in the alternative scene, there's a million like open mics and mixed bills or even themed things, but like no one's trying to do like a scripted thing. There's again a lot of sketch nights, but like doing the whole thing from beginning to end, that's quite unique." And then from then onwards, we started writing them. I co-wrote the first panto we did with Matthew Heighton. And then after that, every Weirdo script I've written myself, and just giving everything guardrails, giving the chaos guardrails, but like a full-on script, and then like rehearsing it means that you've still got so much play, but it's like around this like really rigid structure, and like everyone knows where they're going.
But it's still very childlike and playful, and that's the joy in it, is that everyone is having such a good time performing the show.
Yeah, I think that's like not fully intentional. Like in my head, like I write these plays and I spend a long time writing them. Like I can't stress, like, and then probably what you see on stage is maybe 70% like to the script. But it's not because I'm like anti-rehearsal. It's that I've got a job. Everyone in the cast has got a job. They're doing other gigs. We try and rehearse as much as we can, but like normally that's only in the evenings or the weekends. So that's like, and again, even a rehearsal, if you think about what a rehearsal, like the cheapest rehearsal space costs for a day, you're paying about £100. And for a night that you're doing something with a cast of 10 plus, and then you divide that, you book a rehearsal room more than once or twice, and you're already like losing a good chunk of your profits. Yeah. And I don't want to bankrupt anyone by being in these shows. Like I lose money putting them on, but yeah, it's trying to find that balance. So the ramshackle play is partly these are comedians doing a play and that's their instinct, but also because like, yeah, this is the only way we can afford to do it. We've got, why do you make everything out of cardboard? Because it's cheap. I would happily get like really hire a prop maker and do that and get like really great quality props made. But I don't have the budget to hire a prop maker to do all of these like 3 nights runs of a show. It's just not possible.
Yeah. But that's, that's part of your signature now, isn't it? The cardboard prop. I mean, I remember seeing Good Morning Croissant at the Fringe, where everything was cardboard. The audience were involved in like making a conveyor belt, and because it's based in the supermarket, of course. And yeah. But then going into lockdown, and then you were doing cardboard work on social media, like the entire Greggs you set up in your home.
Oh yeah.
So that's kind of a signature now. So you didn't have to build a Greggs in your living room.
No, I mean, there's a lot of things we all did in lockdown that we didn't have to do. But no, I love painting and I love art. And I think like from even those early stand-up gigs, I always brought props and things on stage. And I love that like visual element. And again, it was just like, it was that natural evolution to what can I build in my room this week and make and bring on stage. And if you do that for 10 years, 15 years, you get quite good at it. Of course you do. Like the people who, I know people who are musical comics and they are fantastic musicians, like not just musical comics, but fantastic musicians because they're constantly writing and stuff like that. And I didn't think I was a good artist, but I think, 15 years of just constantly making stuff, I think I'm all right. It was the cardboard thing. yeah, I'm definitely not like the only person to do it. It's probably most directly ripped off from Frank's Side Bottom. But yeah, I remember when I started, and yeah, Beck Hill did then and still does now, like incredible art on stage as well. I get really annoyed when people are like, oh, this is like, lots of reviews will go, oh, these shoddy handmade props. And like, that's not shoddy and handmade. Like, this is art. Just because it's made with cheap materials, it's still art. If someone brings like a prop made from like or purchased, that's less art to me than something that you've made on cardboard. I don't know. I'd like a review to refer to these things that I've spent hours, days, weeks building as art, but you know, you can only. It's more fun to go, this shoddily made thing, like, fuck off. How many hours are you spending me? You try. But yeah, I think like I love that aesthetic, and people have said like it's nice to just see that, and it does divide people, like people who I suppose, like, if you like music that's really well produced and you like TV or comedy that's really slick, then you see someone pull out a bunch of like scruffy cardboard props that have been made in their bedroom, and maybe you think that this is just bad. But people who like indie music or scruffily lo-fi produced stuff, or, you know, have always enjoyed that aesthetic, or are quite like art school hipsters, they tend to like get like what you're doing, and that it's not accidental, and there's like something going on there, and they like really buy into it. Like, again, yeah, Weirdos hasn't got a giant crowd of fans, but we've got a loyal crowd of fans, and they're all freaks and weirdos and crusties themselves. We've got some of like the best. The audience that comes to our show have like the best T-shirts and like pop culture pin badges, and like everyone looks different in the crowd. It's just like a real. I think like Weirdos was meant to be originally like referring to the people on stage, but I think these days it refers to the audience, and like the wonderful people that come along to these shows are just always surprising and always lovely.
Yeah. And
went from cardboard to people, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know many people who deeply covet a Larter original, so yeah, they have an intrinsic value all their own.
Oh, there's a lot of my fire hazards, you know, stuffing up people's living rooms all over the place. Because you make so much stuff, you got to get rid of it. So at the end of the show, you just get like rid of it. Or otherwise, yeah, there wouldn't be any room in where I live. There's just be stacked.
Yeah. And certainly at Leicester Comedy Festival, where I go every year, there's the Weirdos Weekend. The last weekend of the festival is known as Weirdos Weekend in the honour of all the players who all will have their own shows as well. So yeah, as audiences go, a lot of respect there for Weirdos, certainly.
Yeah, I mean, that's my favourite weekend of the year. Like, seeing everyone bring their new shows for the first time and like try them out. And yeah, the Leicester audience, just absolutely love the Leicester audience. And I know some people travel quite far, like to come there. And the Chapels, who I don't think there's anyone as lovely and as like supportive as they are as a couple, who come and watch almost all of the shows over that weekend. And yeah, I think we try and keep the audience in mind where whatever we do, you know, keep ticket costs as low as possible, and try and like bring new stuff as well. Like, you know, partly that idea of like doing a new show up there every year is like to make myself write stuff, but also it's like, you know, to value the audience and go like, you're not going to, have you seen this thing that right now in comedy, it's quite like, it never used to be a thing of like, I'm going to take 3 years to make a show. And therefore it's like, year one is like, here's the whip of it. Year two is like the version I'm going to take seriously. And year three is like this like victory lap of it. And I get like, some people are like, oh, this is an affordable way of doing it. And I just don't have the patience for it. Like, I don't care. I like watching it. I don't know about you, but like like watching it new and it's just like fresh and exciting.
Yeah. Again, part of the reason I absolutely adore the Leicester Comedy Festival is because it is mostly early days works in progress, and there is a lot of playing and messing around, and it's an audience that knows that. So they go in open-minded and supportive, and it's just a really joyful atmosphere, and you get to mess up and it's fine. And it's what you do with it then. And it's that playful atmosphere that I enjoy the most.
Yeah. I mean, the intention is for it to all be word perfect every time, but you do what you can.
What about you yourself? We've talked about you in character and in sketch and things like this, and obviously you've got a wealth of props to support you, but how much of it is you when you're on stage? Are you playing a heightened version of yourself, an exaggeration, a character of you?
I guess so. Yeah, in my own stuff, I've always just used my name and my voice, except for, in plays and things, like I do a bad accent, 9 times out of 10. And then when I cast myself in weirdo stuff, normally I just play because I know that anyone that I'm asking to be part of these shows, they've got their own lives. They're normally working on their own show. So I know it's never going to be the most important thing in their diary. So it's not entirely ego, but I try and give myself the biggest part a lot of the time, just because I know I'm going to be the one that knows what the plot is. And if anyone completely falls off the rail or doesn't know what's happening, I can stick to that. So I normally give myself quite a boring character just to know what's going on and to sort of drive it along, and to let everyone else come in with some big mad character that's 90% wigs and whatever, and bring something ridiculous to the table. But and then I have always enjoyed the game of like acting like I'm surprised by what's going on, even though I wrote it all. But yeah, I think I'm largely me on stage. I never have really ever talked about anything. I'm not someone who talks about like anything too personal on stage, largely because I don't think like I live a happy life, happily married, got a little cat, and work a pretty boring job. But I don't think like anyone really wants to hear about like my life. I think, or I'm just more interested in like silly ideas and surreal, exaggerated worlds and like really cartoonish sort of thoughts. And so, yeah, I'm quite like really, I'm the most neutral bit in whatever's happening on stage. And it's like whatever art or idea or world or whatever that I've created. And then you just see this quite like, I suppose, normal guy lost in this world. And yeah, even though I've kind of created it.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, isn't that then, because if you are at the center of it and you are being more yourself, sorry if I'm getting massively psychoanalytical here, but if you're being yourself, but then this cavalcade of whimsy occurring all around you that you've created, is that then the inside of your head being let out and to be that other form?
Yeah, I guess so. I think like there's like people that like those big expansive universes of like nonsense are possibly like the most, you can't really picture them in your brains. Like Matt Groening or whatever has created like these most memorable characters, but he's like a guy with, what does Matt Groening look like? He just looks like a guy, right? Yeah, or Walt Disney. What does Walt Disney look like? An old bloke. I think like the more wacky, cartoonish world that you're creating, it's okay for you to just be the person there. I kind of like that. Look at this concept of this show. Look at this art. Look at this image. It's okay to not be part of that. That's it. It's like it's your signature, I guess.
Yeah. You've mentioned about watching comedy and some of the people that you've enjoyed previously. Do you still watch comedy? And because you create comedy as well, do you see it in the same way?
Oh yeah, always like watching comedy, like live stuff, and I try and watch a lot of new stuff. Generally, I don't really watch much stand up. Very very minimal stand up. I'll watch stand up from friends, and I do. Yeah, there are some stand ups that I love, but yeah, generally I try and go watch a bunch of clown stuff, character stuff, sketch stuff. Yeah, I'm a big fan of all of like the classic TV comedy and American stuff. I got to see On Cinema at the cinema this year, which I think the crowd was like 90% comedians watching that. Love that. I think it's all good, really. Like, you know, Weirdos in the early years, and I guess probably me being in my 20s then, was like real, like, we hate the mainstream. But like at that time, it was like really like Mock the Week, Live at the Apollo heavy. Like that was the big narrative in comedy. And like it was quite sickening. Like actually it was quite like boys club vibes, everyone in shirts, blazer jackets, like quite like just this rant comedy was like really popular, where people would be like, oh God, why do you have was it that Rod Gilbert got like the suitcase and like just spent like 5 minutes like moaning, and as a real snotty little shit, like a lot of the stuff was like trying to be like, we're not this or whatever. And I think now I'm accepting, probably me and the gang as well, just like it's not really a thing that we really beat down on the mainstream. That is there and it exists. It's like quite lame, like if you're in a tiny little bar band like moaning about, you know, the Sabrina Carpenter, like he doesn't care. Like you're not having a dialogue there. It doesn't make any better art. So I think like yeah, I still watch what I enjoy and watch probably the weirder end of the scale. But yeah. And I think like I also thought that in watching comedy, the thing that you come fresh into these things, and when you realize you don't know anything, you start by going, I hate the name Weirdos. I wish it wasn't called Weirdos, because at the time I was like, we're doing this stuff and it's not stand up, therefore it's the weirdest thing you've ever seen. And then I spent years like watching so much performance art and like always going and watching the weirdest thing at the Fringe. And I realized we're not that weird. Like this is not mainstream comedy for sure. It's not too easy to monetize, but it's pretty accessible. Like most people should be able to roll into this. And it's like, it's slightly left of center. It's goofy, it's slapdash, but it's like also not anything new in the scheme of things, bar a couple of exceptions, things that we've done. Yeah. I watch comedy. I don't watch as much as you, but I watch more than most people.
Fair. So do you think that you've learned one important lesson so far that you sort of carry with you forward?
Yeah, I've really hurt my back over the years. Prop comedy. Don't go into prop comedy unless you're also going into like yoga and like looking after your body, because oh my gosh. And yeah, you talk to other prop comics and they've all tried to figure out like smart, healthy ways of carrying large amounts of stuff around. And most people have cars and I don't. So that's not very smart. I think like, yeah, the main thing that I've learned, which isn't any new advice, is like stick to what you enjoy. And that was when I was talking about making that leap from like booking stand-up nights to like starting Weirdos. As soon as I went, there is no financial ambition or career progression ambition with this. It's truly about joy and making each other laugh. Then we started making good shows. Then it started being good. And that was a good couple of years in, you know, many, you know, and I think like, you know, that might not be your goal. And like those who really wanted to climb a ladder, you know, I was lucky to start at the time seeing some people who were, you know, incredibly successful now. They wanted it and they absolutely wanted it. And they made it their mission to be famous and they made it their mission to be a comedian full time. And they have done it. And that is an incredibly hard graft, and you know not everyone gets that lucky. But yeah, however, if you're the flip side of that and you just want to make interesting things, no one's going to ask you. You've got to go and do it yourself. But once you are on that track, it's the best. The best.
You've done shows that have been...
I'm done.
No, you have done so far shows that have been parodies of other shows, like the Fawlty Towers Dining Experience, for example. You've done one of, I think, Chortle's event of the year, which was like Tony Law Battle for Icetopia.
Yes.
Which is like, again, I mean, I'm not even going to try and describe what that was, but pantomimes, which you've mentioned, you've got like the Halloween shows as well. Is there anything that you sort of got in your mind that you want to do that you haven't done yet? There's something you maybe given time and money that you would try and achieve?
There's one idea for a show that I really want to do that involves 2 rooms, and I got told this is not possible. Well, it is possible, but possible on the limitations which I have, which is largely favors from people. But I want to do this show. I've got in my head this idea for a show that's like, did you ever watch like Impractical Jokers? Like there's a genre of like TV where it's like you watch someone in a room giving people directions, and then you also see like what's happening there. I wanted 2 parallel gigs to be happening, which one is an open mic night, and everyone's just like, if you did it at the Fringe, you call it like best of the best. And then in another room that you're watching that gig on a live screen while you and the audience play games to decide what's going to happen in that room. So basically you dictate what the set is of the comedian that's going to go out there. But I don't want it to be like mean. I don't want it to be like, go out there and then call the audience this or whatever, but more like, what could you do that would... There's something about the idea that often... I've heard this quote, I don't know who came up with the original quote, but like the film of the... When it's a really mad alternative gig, when you're creating like lightning in a bottle and doing like a happening, or it's either really, really bad or just like really, really mad or really, really long, or whatever that like extreme moment you can get to in like a show, the film of it would be more interesting than the gig itself, Yeah. Because when you're there, you're like, oh my God, like this is awkward or this is weird or what's happening. But if you've got that like distance from it, you're like, this is hilarious. I can't believe this is happening. Right? You've got permission to laugh. You've got permission to be... So, I don't know. I don't know what that gig is. I don't know how that works. You need very good internet. I'm aware of that. You need to rope in a lot of people, and you'd need to keep it like very secret as a concept, which probably talking about in a podcast isn't great, but there's something in that as an idea is really fun. And Tony and I do want to revisit the ice show idea. It's been like 8 years now. So yeah, we were talking this Fringe about that. It was like, why did we do this show that was like so madly ambitious? We learned so much doing it, and then we never did it again. It was a comedy show on an ice rink where all of the comedians were ice skating, and I'd written a play, and Tony's a really good ice skater because he grew up in Canada ice skating, and the rest of the comedians couldn't really ice skate. And we put on a play with costumes and songs and did that at Alexandra Palace Ice Rink, and learned so much doing so, largely about how remote microphones work. But the sound wasn't very good. But why not go back and do that again? So yeah, some of the things that I want to do are just revisiting things that never did properly in the first place. Like the Fawlty Towers dining experience is something that so many people talk to me about. There's probably like 5 people in the audience. It was like, and I'm aware some of them were, because I put up posters next to the posters of the Fawlty Towers dining experience, and these are like handmade posters. And there was a few friends in the audience, and then the rest of the audience were the cast from the Fawlty Towers dining experience who came to watch it. And it was... but this was the fun of it. It was bad. It was just me running around as Basil Fawlty, which I guess was just like a stick-on mustache. And we were just trying to go like, if the Fawlty Towers dining experience is the worst cash grab possible, what is funnier is just doing like the most awful approximation of that. And I think it was like playing the Fawlty Towers theme every 20 seconds and just Ali Bryce as the major just going, faulty. I mean, it was hammy as hell. But I, also wouldn't be upset at anyone walking out of that stuff. Yeah, like those experimental years where you're just like learning stuff and not necessarily doing a good show. It would be fun to go back and do them properly,
Yeah. Well, with that in mind, then, what do you think so far have been your best and worst experiences in doing live comedy?
Best, I think, like all of the pantos are very good for the soul. Not just the shows and like the sort of magic you can pull out from having that many people involved, but the social element of like, we raise all of the money for those pantos goes to charity. So everyone is there to have fun, to do a good thing. And it's got that kind of Christmassy vibe of it's winter and you all get together on a weekend to rehearse at some awful early hour on a Sunday morning in a freezing cold room because you're like doing it for favors anywhere that will have you. Reading through the scripts and, inevitably we do that first read through and everyone's taking the piss out of all of the typos I've left in the script. Not going like, oh my God, Adam's written a whole pantomime. Like, do you have any idea how hard it is to write a pantomime with 20 plus characters? And there's a reason why people don't write new pantomimes. They just do the old ones. But yeah. And that feeling of, all getting together and goofing around and just making each other laugh with like ridiculous accents and costumes and stuff. And, like when you're gigging and life goes on, you don't even see like these people who are some of your best friends and like just getting to hang out with them. Like, Ali is my best friend and still I'm like grateful when I get to cast him and show because I'm like, oh, I get to spend some time with you, I actually get to hang out as like adults. It's not very easy to do that. And even when you're at gigs, like now, as people get older, I remember when we were all young and doing more like open micy gigs, you'd turn up and you'd be there an hour beforehand and you'd chat and then you'd do the gig and then you'd stay late and do that afterwards. And now people will turn up and do their set and like go home like, I'm sorry, I've got to get back for this. And, or I'm double gigging or whatever. And you don't, or maybe they just don't want to talk to me. And you don't get that time to chat. So like doing the pantomime is an incredibly amazing experience. Doing like the ice show was great. I mean, not just because it was like a mad show and like no one's ever done this like this before, but Tony is someone I hugely respect and look up to. And being asked to do that with him was like, and we're friends now, but like I still I'm like, you're a comedy legend. Like, what are you doing talking to me? Like that, like line of being like involved in comedy and also occasionally getting to meet your heroes is like really great. I've got like best moments. Like there's a real like kind of love as well for any time like anyone who's been involved in Weirdos does well. And like, Sam Nicoresti won the big award at the Fringe this year and I'm incredibly proud of her. And like we're this ramshackle group of idiots and just like seeing anyone from our gang break through and I'm like, I won't be able to cast you in stuff now, but also I'm so happy for you. Like this is it's a sweet victory of like, but watching people going off and having those moments and doing like incredibly well is really lovely. Worst moments, I don't think there are many really. I think what a great thing to be able to do with your life. I don't think they're not immediately. I mean, there are bad gigs, but still a bad gig. You're still going and doing a gig. Like that's still better than not doing comedy. I think the bad moments are just like going back to work, going back and doing stuff that isn't this. And, that's my choice in my life. And I've, made peace with balancing doing ridiculously stupid comedy that has no financial, future to it and balancing it with a day job that's quite sensible and working in an office and being that. But it does suck sometimes when you have friends who are like full-time comics, and you're like, I know you don't have it easy, and I know that they can either live from gig to gig or have good years or bad years, but also, I'm so jealous of that. Like, they're incredibly talented to do so, and they put up with a lot of shit. Any of those that do this for a living, I respect and admire them, but also there's a huge bit of jealousy, and that those are those tough times when you just remember, like I haven't done the Fringe since 2019 because I don't know if I can, and like that sucks. Like, I would totally be up there every year with a new show and writing that and doing that. Such is life. Yeah, you make choices.
How can people find out all about you and where they can come and see you and see your fine works?
Just my name on most channels. No Twitter, but everything else. No TikTok either. Weirdo's built up a good following on Twitter, and now it's all like social media is taking videos of yourself. I can't do that, but yeah, Adam Larter or Weirdo's Comedy at anywhere. Oh yeah, Killer Seagulls of Somerset, which is a spooky play about scary birds. And no, I haven't watched Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds, but I've been told it's very similar. But I have watched Jaws, so I've basically replaced Jaws with a bird. But it's mostly based on being a teenager in Somerset and missing doing that accent, really. So that's at the Museum of Comedy over Halloween, which is a show that we've been doing. Been doing a different Halloween show for the last 3 or 4 years now, and enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. It's fun being spooky.
Is there going to be a Christmas panto this year?
No. The Weirdos shows are whenever I have time to write a thing. So last year I did four plays. Generally, people who write plays will write 1, maybe 2 a year. So writing 4 unique plays and performing in them and promoting them in a year is too much. So it's just a quiet year this year. I spent more time directing things of other people's work this year. So there's no panto. Sorry.
So I'll ask you my final question then, which of course is, how would you sum up comedy in a nutshell?
How would I sum up comedy in a nutshell? So I think, again, one of the good things I was taught over the years is comedy is listening. And I've always made that distinction of if theatre is, you can go out and perform a script and it doesn't matter if the audience is there or not, then comedy has to have that dialogue to it. If something is bad, you listen and you hear that reaction. And that's what I believe comedy is that exercise of listening and dialogue. And I think that's true even when it's written. I think it's still with an audience in mind, rather than theatre or anything that is not comedy is there to just be an expression of yourself rather than wanting to hear it back or wanting to hear confirmation. And that's why we laugh, is I don't know, maybe that's not why we laugh. I'm sure there's a better explanation of that. But it's when someone laughs back, it's I hear you. That's why I get from that, connecting.
Yeah. And thank you so much for being my guest. It's been a genuine pleasure. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Mark. No one ever really asks stuff, so it's quite nice to be asked about stuff.